We're continuing on with our Humankind playthrough tips for Humankind difficulty in the Ancient Era. If you missed the first segment, go back and check that out, and go ahead and then hop back here. I'm going to continue to try and keep these sort of short, so we're just going to do like 5 minutes worth of tips, and that way you can sort of absorb those without just watching a video that's like, hey, watch me play Humankind. We've got our first meeting with an AI persona here that is off to our east, the black persona, and I mean black as in that is the color of their standard or flag or emblem, not that this particular AI persona happens to be of that nationality or descent. So irrigation is a pretty good choice here. We've got probably a higher than normal amount of river hexes within the immediate vicinity of our capital city, and then our first outpost also has a reasonable number of river hexes. So that will help supplement our food supply, which is only currently at 5 surplus in Memphis. And that way we can focus on continuing to build makers' quarters since we are the Egyptians. The Black AI persona wants to establish a trade luxuries treaty, and my advice in the early game is to get in the habit of using the counter offer. That way you can obtain a lump sum of gold if they do accept, but if they don't accept, then you don't give them war support the same way you would by hitting refuse on the treaty. Now, the reason that I don't favor just accepting the treaty is because unless you can verify that they have some sort of luxury resource that you want to push the trade route to, they will end up benefiting disproportionately if you have a luxury resource already established, because they'll be able to purchase that trade route. And once it's purchased, changing the treaty won't actually negate the existing routes. So that is something that you want to consider, that you don't want to enter into those agreements until they have something that you actually want to purchase and you have the money to purchase. We're getting ready to establish another outpost here. Just a few things that you want to keep in mind. Unlike the Neolithic era, it probably does matter a little bit how many turns it takes to build your outpost, and that is affected by the production output on the tile. So the reason that some tiles take much longer than others is because they have a low production output. So you might have had one flagged for you that has something like 20 food and 3 production, but it takes an extremely long time to build, and that is because the production is low. And then you also want to keep in mind which city that you're attaching it to, because the combined values will add up. So if you have low production or low food, then you'll want to supplement it with an outpost that can bring up the value that is lacking. The other thing that you want to keep in mind too is that the size of the strength, I believe, of the group that is establishing the outpost in terms of units will add a flat amount of production to the outpost before you establish it. So that will also cut down on the number of turns, not because it takes fewer turns because you're getting more production, but because you're getting a lump sum of production upon immediately hitting that create outpost button. So real quick, let's talk about early game battling, because the AI tends to be pretty aggressive when they have the advantage. Now, on Humankind difficulty, they do have a battle advantage in terms of that they just have a straight up modifier to how strong they are. But typically, if you have the same unit versus the same unit, you can overcome that by using the manual battle feature rather than instant resolution, and then just trying to occupy the high ground and defend. They will typically continue to attack you, even though that is enough to negate their advantage and actually give you a slight advantage. Quick note on exploring the map at this point. I do not use the auto explore nearly as much once I'm out of the Neolithic era. It doesn't seem to, I think, track as well for the curiosities that you're looking for after that, which is the magnifying glass ones rather than the food and the science symbols. It does still track them for the most part, but I'd rather have more control over the way that I'm exploring the map. I still use it to some extent. Another reason for this is that the AI's military advantage, they tend to use that to try and pick off your units, so you don't want them wandering around too much over by the AI persona's territory and giving free war support away. I think we've mentioned that before. So green persona wants to establish a trade luxuries treaty, and we'll be using the counter offer once again, but unlike black, they will be accepting this time, so we'll be getting that lump sum of money. And you can sort of bet that if the AI is coming forward with the treaty proposal, that is generally to their advantage. And you'll notice that in my area, I do have 2 established luxury resources, so it's not surprising that they're trying to establish these treaties. Now, one unfortunate element to the way that movement and battles work in Humankind is that the AI tends to just sort of gravitate and take their move preemptively before you can respond, because that aspect of it is, I guess, just sort of real time. So oftentimes you'll be moving to attack or trying to position your troops around, and the AI will just run in and attack you. So if you do have a movement you need to make, you'll probably have to queue that up in advance and try to just mash that take next turn button as quickly as possible. Once again, if this happens to you, you want to focus on defending, taking the high ground, avoid attacking unless it's clear that the predictor shows that you're going to get the better of the exchange. The AI will usually continue attacking. Sometimes they won't, but most of the time you can at least sort of ferret out a draw or just actually a win if they just can't get to the flag and they just keep attacking you from the inferior positioning. So we're at about the 5-minute mark for this video, so we'll wrap up for this video and continue on with some more tips for playing Humankind on the highest difficulty. If you enjoyed the video, please check out my other videos and consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.